Good morning. So, in continuation to our previous part, we have discussed about the what are the different types of the drug receptor interaction, what is the forces involved. But later on, whenever we are talking about the dose response relationship, and here dose response relationship again it is associated with the drug receptor binding and how the biological efficacy it will be producing. It is related to the efficacy. So we are going to discuss about the some of the important terms. Now, graded dose response relationship. Now, whenever we are talking about the graded dose response relationship, first one is the potency. So, potency is the measure of the amount of the drug necessary to produce the effect into the given magnitude. So, this is the amount of the drug, clear concentration of the drug necessary to produce an effect in the given magnitude. So, in a, it will how much quantity of the drug it is required to produce a effect in the given magnitude, the given you can say that margin. Now, concentration of the drug produce 50% of maximum effect, which is known as a EC50. That EC50. Now, what is does mean the EC50? For example, EC50 is the concentration of the drug. EC50 is the concentration of the drug that produce a response equal to the 50% of the maximal response. Let that you can say that equals to the 50% of the maximal response. Now, what does it mean? If you see that this is the drug A, this is the drug B, this is the you can say that drugs. Clear? This is the drugs, and this is the percentage of the effect. Clear? Percentage of the effect. So, A drug was given and B drug was given. Now, this is the 50%. So, if we are interpolate this and this is the what? This is the drug concentration. So, if we are extrapolate and if we are getting this result, so this is the EC50. That means in this concentration, this drug it will produce 50% of maximal effect, 50% of the maximal effect, and for the B drug, this is the maximal effect. So this is the same thing, percentage of the maximal effect. Now, if we are considering this, which one is the most potent drug? Of course, the drug which in lesser concentration or the lesser amount produce the 50% of the response. That is the potent drug. So, A drug here, the A drug is the potent drug because you can say that EC50 is smaller compared to the B drug. Clear? EC50 is smaller compared to B drug. Next one is the effect of drug on the concentration of the receptor binding. Now, what we are already, though we have studied the qualitative relationship between the drug concentration and the receptor occupancy apply to the law of mass of action of the kinetics of the binding and the drug receptor molecule. Now, drug and receptor, so drug receptor complex. So, drug and receptor means drug receptor complex. After the drug receptor complex only, there will be, you can say that it will produce the biological effect, biological effect, and relation to the drug binding to the pharmacological effect. Now you see that already as we have discussed, if you are considering this is the 100% activity, so the red color was the full agonist. So full agonist what did produce the 100% of effect. They are 100% of effect. This is the zero. Clear? This is the zero. If we are considering the partial agonist, it is a similar effect is in the same direction like that of the full agonist, but what will happen? It is less than the 100%. So this is the partial agonist. In case of the inverse agonist, what we can observe that here inverse agonist it will come to the zero. There it will, that means they do not have their own activity, but they will block the effect of the agonist. So intrinsic activity is zero, and if you are considering the inverse agonist, so they will come to the -1. So all those things already we have discussed, but this is also important what type of the agent it is binding and it is producing the pharmacological effect. Now coming to the therapeutic index. What is mean by the therapeutic index? Now therapeutic index of a drug is the ratio of dose that produce the toxicity in half population, that means TD50. Clear? Half population. That means what? Whenever we are giving, it is the ratio of the dose that produce. That means we are giving a drug. And the drug in a particular concentration, it will produce the effect on the at least 50% or the half of the population. There half of the population, so that you can say that we are considering as a TD ED50. Let that we are considering as a ED50. Let ED50. So ED50 means it is producing the biological effect or the you can say that effect to the 50% of the population. In which dose? Let in which dose? In case of the TD50, TD means it is the toxic dose. Let in which concentration? Let in which concentration the drug it is produced toxic effect, induce toxic effect, you can say that in the 50% of the population, in the 50% of the population. So sometimes it is also we are telling is the LD50. Now what is meant by the LD50? LD is the lethal dose. So same thing in the concentration, the drug it is produced, the lethal effect, lethal effect of the cause the death to the 50% of the population in which it was administered. So that is the lethal dose. So therapeutic index, which is a measure of the drug safety, because larger value of therapeutic index indicates the wide margin between the dose and effective dose and that are toxic. So if the TI value is less, then it is value is less, then it will be considered as a potent drug, and if you increasing the dose a little bit also, they may produce the toxic effect. So you can say the therapeutic index we are getting by the equation TD50 by ED50. So these are the some of the key aspects after the drug receptor interaction or the consequence of the drug receptor interaction. So these are the reference, you can go through it for detail.